Semper sit tyrannis, thus always to tyrants. Those were the words of Timothy McVeigh, which signaled the bombing of April 19th, 1995. 9:02 a.m. on the anniversary of the Waco siege, McVeigh and his co-conspirator Nichols launched the notorious terrorist attack against the U.S. government, now remembered as the Oklahoma City bombing. That's McVeigh, and that's Nicole. McVeigh was a veteran of the Gulf War, responsible for the organization of the Oklahoma City bombing. His co-conspirator Nichols and McVeigh first met at Fort Benning for military training, where they shared their mutual frustrations towards the U.S. government. They believed that the U.S. government had failed their duty to protect their citizens in many instances. These instances include Waco siege, which was an incident that that occurred in Idaho, no, in Texas, my bad, in Texas, with a religious group of Branch Davidians who lived on a ranch and were accused of illegal gun trading. This resulted in the FBI issuing a search warrant, which was met with tension, and this broke out into a crossfire and killed 76 people during this process. Another incident of this irresponsibility of the government was Ruby Ridge, located in northern Idaho. Randy Weaver was guilty of illegal firearms trading, but when the U.S. Marshal confronted him about this, his son, Sam Weaver, ended up shooting the Marshal, which also led to a massacre of the Weaver family. Both these situations present very controversial issues where the government was forced into situations inevitably resulting in innocent casualties. There are many gray areas that shroud the legality of the actions of both sides, the government and the citizens. However, the two men, McVeigh and Nichols, were both enraged with the government, and they took matters into their own hand. April 19th, 1995, they borrowed, through a rental truck, they filled the rental truck with 7,000 pounds of explosives, including fertilizers, gasoline, and just a homemade explosive, and the bomb was detonated on the north side of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building, killing 168 people, and of which 19 were children, and this is just a show of like the bombing. This is the north side of the building. The yellow thing down there is the truck, and this is what happened after the explosion. We could see all 9 stories are completely destroyed, and the reason McVeigh targeted the north side of the building was because it was a glass front, and he believed this would do the most damage. This building was the facility that many agencies such as the FBI, Drugs Control, and International Affairs were part of. And there were many lasting effects because of this incident. On a more personal...
Okay.
That was not part of the plan. Many families were influenced by this tragedy, and on the Denny's were a family that were interviewed by CBC, I believe, and their children, Rebecca and Brandon, were infants during this time. Rebecca was lucky enough to be with her mother during the explosion, and she remembers she was traumatized by this event. She remembers it as the lightning, the thunder, and fire that disabled her brother forever. Her brother, on the other hand, Brandon, wasn't so lucky. He got caught up in the explosion because he was in the daycare center on the bottom of the building, and his right side of the brain was destroyed by a plate that impaled his head. And now he suffers a permanent brain damage. He has speech impairment, cognitive impairment, and he's 4 years older than us, and yet he has to participate in speech therapy, physical therapy, and even psychological therapy. On a grander scale, the law was eternally changed for the United States after this incident, compounded with the first Trade Center attack. These two events warned the U.S. government that terrorism is a potential threat all the time. And so the Senate passed an act called the Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act of 1996, also known as ADPA. What this act allowed the government to do was to override what we call, or what the government calls, an innate right, habeas corpus. And habeas corpus is what allows people, or all citizens of the United States, to question or inquire the legality of detainment or search warrants. But due to the fact that these threats were always prominent, the government was given this power to override this rule temporarily in order to avoid terrorism and other potential threats. And so Conclusively, this is a very ironic situation because McVeigh and Nichols created the opportunity for the government to legally proceed in activities such as Ruby Ridge and Walker Siege. And that's it.
Good.